So yes. Hello sir, myself Nandan Halagalimath. I'm a second year mass communication and journalism student from D.Y. Patil International University, Akodi, Pune. So we had a examination based upon it, and this was my topic about why our generation is going for dating apps. What is the psychology behind it, and how is it, and why is it? So questions revolving around it. So before I begin asking questions, I would like for you to introduce yourself about your work, your experience.
I'm Dr. Rohan Jahagirdar. I'm a consultant psychiatrist practicing in Pune. And I've about 15 years of psychiatric experience in the field of mental health, field of sexuality. I'm also a writer for Pune Mirror as this expert.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, sir. So the first question which I have is, what are the psychological factors driving the increase in dating app usage across different generations? So it is, of course, the majority is of our generation, but there is an increase in every generation aspect. So what is the psychological factor which drives it?
Before the psychological factor, I believe you should understand that technology has played a role everywhere, and that has changed over the last 20-25 years, including the field of relationships or dating. Hence, like all the other apps, may that be your money transactions, to may that be your news or reading news online, same way, the online availability of such an apps is one of the reasons why they are being used. If you go back to the psychology, the question of which you are asking, the psychology behind it is very similar to what it was offline as well. People who want to indulge in this, people who are looking for relationships, I believe have one more option to indulge in it in an online platform or in an online manner. The difference between the two is people are doing it more frequently because of the availability on the phone or because of its availability much easier, and second, the options that are available in terms of what they are looking for. Let's say in a conventional way of dating somebody, you are looking for the common factors, you are looking for the social background, you are looking for certain other aspects, not the element of, as the new generation calls, only fun, which is certainly different in terms of the aspects when it go to online dating apps. So the more availability, easier access, and the options that they are getting on in terms of what they seek is why one of the major reasons why their usage is very high.
Okay.
Besides the fact that technology also has played a role in giving that a platform.
So what you mean to say is that technology is also a very important psychological factor which is getting used.
Of course, it's just same like social media. If the Facebook and Instagram did not exist, you will never use it. Because they exist, you are using it. Now, whether you are using it, where you are abusing it, or you are addicted to it, depends on the person. Same way, there is a dating app. Whether somebody ever uses it, somebody never uses it, or is excessively using it, depends on the person.
Thank you, sir. So the second question I have is, are there any societal or cultural shifts contributing to the popularity of dating apps? Because right now, like if we say a few years back, the popularity or dating apps was not something which was very taboo. It is still in some certain parts, but right now it is very completely open up. It has become mainstream. So what are the societal and cultural shifts which you feel which are happened?
Again, similar to what I just said, see, an app like, for example, ordering a food app on which you're ordering food would be considered, there would have been a resistance, there would have been certain amount of difficulty while initially accepting it. But today everybody uses the apps for ordering food and doing stuff. Same way, when these apps would have been launched, at that point of time, certainly there would be some reservations, resistances amongst them. But over a period of time, like Facebook, like other social media platforms, this platform has got accepted, and because it has got accepted, there is enormous amount of popularity of it. Socioculturally speaking, like we have accepted most other forms of technology, most other forms of apps, we are also accepting this. The other shift is, like you again mentioned, it is common in a generation which is not very open, or which is very open to the availability of this. So let's say the millennials, as we call it, a generation which was born after 2000, they would never know a life where there was no mobile phone. They cannot understand how can one live without a mobile phone. Whereas people before that always thought of mobile phone as a new addition to their life. So same way, there are going to be people who would consider now socially or culturally dating is something that is done only online, and there would be people who would look at it as a additional form of probably avenue, and there would be some people who would never go on it. But most youngsters, that's why the social acceptance of it is very high in a certain generation, which is used to using of the phone or the technology for doing most of their work. Hence, the question, answering the question, yes, socio-culturally, that is the generation that is most accepting. That is the generation that will be most open. So it is not very common for, let's say, a parent to say to their child or their girl or a boy that fine, go on a dating app and go on a date. No, nobody will say that. But it would be fairly common for guys or girls to discuss among themselves, look who I saw or met on XYZ dating app. So that is the difference there. And culturally, I believe acceptance is more in the youth or the youngsters compared to the senior or the elder ones.
But so, what do you think is the reason behind, I would talk about my generation, that they have accepted it, that they're like, it's fine, like this is it, we are okay with it, we are cool with it. What is the reason behind it? What do you think about that?
A is availability of such an apps or similar apps or any kind of technology for most things. Your generation will be accepting booking of a railway ticket or booking of a plane ticket also, or a movie ticket also online.
Yeah.
The concept of going to a theater and taking a ticket will not exist. Cool or not, that is the way your generation will see the world today. That's number one factor. The second factor is, very honestly, psychologically speaking, going through the rut of meeting somebody and then rejecting seems like a very hard process. They would rather see at multiple profiles, see if they are matching or not, and then they're taking the step forward. For them, in their own head, it is faster, it is more sensible, or it is much easier for them to do so. Yes, it comes with its own pros and cons, but that fast generation would probably be thinking that way.
But why has it become so personal, or why has it has become so something which gets to a heart that rejection is wrong?
No, that's a very different question. Rejection will be there everywhere, including bullying on your social media platforms, to Facebook, to everything else. Rejection on dating apps, we don't find that as a very big factor today, because person who is getting rejected or he's selected or whatever it is, they are involving or indulging into it multiple times. There is a concept called as fast dating also, if you are aware of, where people meet and then probably then just decide whether it's going to be clicking for them or not.
Yeah.
All of them don't involve the factor of dating or not, because emotions are not invested at that point of time.
Okay.
Same way, we don't find that factor of rejection unless, of course, you're going into, again, after meeting on a dating platform, into a conventional relationship and then getting rejected. There is a high possibility of what you're speaking there.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the next question I have is, what are the primary motivations for people to use dating apps? Like, are they seeking casual encounters, long-term relationships, or something else entirely? And how and why it has changed again from what it was few years back to now? And do you think what could be the next future, if you can say so?
Okay. What someone or what most people are seeking is very difficult to comment. But yes, people's exposure to relationships, to adultery, to all the other things has certainly changed over the last few years. Their way of doing things has changed. Psychologically speaking, now the conventional ways of long conventional relationships or being committed, certainly I will not say it's gone away, but the percentile has decreased. People are more self-oriented and people are more focused on what they want in terms of career, and they unfortunately are defining what they want from a partner before it's more like their conditions are fixed for what they want from a relationship. So if someone is looking only to be casually involved into something, a dating app or a scenario like that might offer that to him or her. Someone is looking for a long-term relationship or marriage, probably not a dating app, but a similar app for marriage might work for them. But yes, there is certainly high exposure of all this. There is more acceptance of the liberal thought process in terms of what they want to do. Like I said, everything comes with pros and cons, and so there are going to be a lot of difficulties which are also going to come with such thought processes as well.
Could you talk about the cons?
Yeah, surely. See, the risk that you are taking meeting a completely unknown person in a completely unknown scenario, because the dating apps does not guarantee typically at most times who you are going to meet or the kind of information that has been provided is absolutely accurate. So the risks of what you are indulging into or what you are getting into is significantly higher. You are absolutely meeting a stranger completely random from the society with no history of background. Yes, probably a basics of what their information is true on the basic dating app. But what the intentions are, what the thought process is, do they have any kind of criminal intentions, do they have any kind of such background, you never know.
So, what can one do to prevent such scenarios or anything? Can you advise on that matter?
I would suggest that it is not just the picture on the dating app. I think you should have more sense of communicating to the people, understanding their wavelength of what they intend to talk. Spend some time in knowing what you are getting into. And then certainly the basic rules of male or female, keeping themselves safe before you meet somebody. Try and meet out them in a public place. Try and see that you're not getting into something wrong. But this I think is very standard. I don't think that is anything beyond common sense to be used in this.
Yeah. So, would you consider this as an escapism from the reality for many of the people?
It could be one of the escapisms from the reality. The word that you're using or the thought process that you're using, psychology, can be applied to multiple things, right from spending times on binging on series to spending time mostly on YouTube or seeing reels to spending time on addictive forms of gaming or pornography or all the other things. All of them can be considered as a part of wanting to indulge into something. Purely is it escapism? No. It is, again, there is, let's say, an entity, and there are people who will get to a zone where they are addicted to it, to a zone where they are using it, to a zone where they are abusing it. So yes, most people would want to go into things where their brain is occupied into doing something for a long period of time. The word constructive is what differentiates it. So if someone genuinely is looking for relationships into all of this, yes, they may probably indulge into it, and when they find the right one, they'll stop it. But every day if you're going to go into it and try and find a new person, there's something wrong to you. And that is, there would not be considered as escapism. It is just mere indulgence into something for the heck of it, and that is not completely normal in my opinion.
Yeah. And what happens generally is that when it's a new relationship, a new people, it comes with a new energy. It has everything new. The energy is very fresh. So after a certain point, the honeymoon phase gets fades off. And then the task comes that love isn't the only thing which can sustain you. Sustain you or sustain it. So do you think that mentality could be decreased because of these scenarios?
There is a possibility, but again, I would not generalize it.
Okay.
People who are looking for the adrenaline rush or people who are looking for the newness continuously would probably fit into what you are saying. So yes, they would look for something new every time. But somebody who is looking for a commitment, somebody who is really looking for a relationship, may not look for only the newness, may look for a total package or may look for a total person. Then this cannot be applicable. But even if it is only the newness of it or only the, like you said, the honeymoon phase of it, it is certain that it is not going to last forever. It is not possible. And every new person may not be like that too. That's also equally true. So yes, there is possibility, but you cannot generalize it.
So the next question which I'll go to is, how are traditional courtship rituals and expectations being affected by the rise of dating apps? Like initially the previous generation had some expectations when they had come on, basically mostly the arranged marriages. There was some expectations, this is it, that is it, this is what we're expecting and stuff like this. How is that changed, and was it traditional before or was it generational?
Combination of both. But I believe that yes, there would be certain percentile change in terms of the conventional or the traditional way, but it will not go away. It will still exist. How has it affected the traditional way? There will be still some people who will always take the traditional way, and there will be some people who would never want to take the traditional way. The people who never wanted to take the traditional way would certainly get an option now, which probably may not be there in the past. Now, if I was meeting somebody through a marriage bureau and I am meeting them through a marriage app now, I think the traditional way still exists. It is only the technology that has changed. Because instead of a bureau which was, let's say, physically there was an office, Now there is an app on the phone, but it is still would be considered more or less the traditional format of it. Dating apps would probably give a person who wants to spend some time with people first, understand the person, and then probably decide whether they want to go ahead or not, one option or one opportunity of doing so, which certainly would not be possible in a traditional, less possible in a traditional way. So there would not be possibility that a person meets 10 girls and wants to see how it goes with all the 10 girls and then say yes to one. That would not be possible. But today, probably in a dating app, he or she would be able to do so. But again, that is where the change has happened. Conventional way has also changed in terms of use of technology. The people who never wanted to go by the conventional way now have an option. But when you use the word traditional or conventional, you're typically talking of a committed long-term relationship.
Yeah.
And a dating app is giving not only that, possibly that, but many other things. That is the major difference between the two.
But what is the difference between the two different target audience
One
of
is
matrimonial and dating?
one is wanting to settle down, one is wanting to have a partner, one is wanting to have a life together in a very different way.
And what's the psychology behind it, sir?
Security, safety, the conventional way of marriage, the socio-cultural upbringing, the sense of security, like I mentioned. It's a totality status in the society to wanting to bond in a way, let's say we call it further to increase your progeny or your family in a more committed manner. That is where you would look into for a conventional relationship. The difference, the other side, dating app, the person may not be looking for marriage or commitment. Like I said, your generation, the word that you would use is for fun, or probably seeing how it goes, or casually looking around, or seeing taking it slow, whatever the terms they use at. It may or may not be a committed long-term relationship.